So, like, I don't know. Last year, I posted a thing asking, like, what are your favorite tools for running your D&D game? I'm a big tools guy. I'm really interested not in, like, the philosophy of a lot of stuff with RPG. I'm sure I wax philosophy all the time. But I'm also, like, really interested in the things we use at the table. Like, I'm into the physical stuff, what we actually do, what tools we use, what things help us, which books we use, how to use our books at the table. Like, I'm interested in the physical aspects of it. You know, there's a I think it was Pablo Picasso who said, like, art critics get together and talk about composition and form and color and space, while artists get together to talk about the cheapest place to find turpentine. And I'm a turpentine guy, right? I'm into the, like, what's the cheapest place to get turpentine sort of aspects of GMing. I like the practical aspects of GMing. I think Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master is a practical book designed for GMs to help you prep your game. I use the techniques myself. I'm interested in physical stuff. Like, what do I need on a physical card that I can take with me and roll dice so that I can build monuments or items or other things, right? I want stuff. We're going to talk about using turpentine on your table. Robert Table says, don't use turpentine on your table, though. That actually is related to things involving Chessex Battle Mat. So when I talked about what tools people really liked, a tool that continually popped up over and over again was the Chessex Battle Mat. Now, I had a Chessex Battle Mat. I used it many, many years ago, 20 years ago or so, and kind of stopped using it. I think I was in one of the many people who wrote a dungeon on there, rolled it up, forgot about it, and could never get the dungeon taken back off again. So, but I hadn't used it in a long time, and I fell in love with the Paizo, that used to be called the Paizo Basic Flip Mat. Now it is called the Pathfinder Flip Mat Basic, which is a very inexpensive, somewhere in the order of $15 to $20, depending on where you get it, fold out battle mat that's laminated on both sides. It has blank texture on both sides. One is sort of a stony texture. One is sort of a light brown dirt sort of texture. And I have been carrying around one of these in my DM go bag for like 15 years. 15 years? No, 10 years. Since 5e, certainly. So for like 8 or 10 years, let's say 8 years. I've been using it for a long time. I've had many of them. I bought many of them. I kept them in different kits because they were so cheap. I'd get extras. Some of them I would take and cut apart so I could make smaller versions, like a 4-fold instead of an 8-fold version. Or instead of a 6-fold, it was a 4-fold version. Well, I had ones where I just took like the one sheet so I could just do a tiny like 8x10 battle mat. So I did a lot with it, and I loved it, and I've always been talking about it, but it did not come up as often as the Chessex Mat did. So I'm like, maybe I'm really missing out. And I talked to some friends about the Chessex Battle Mat, and I talked to other people who just talk about how much they love the Chessex Battle Mat. The Chessex Battle Mat is a absolute, veteran staple of tabletop role-playing games for like 30 years, or like 20. I don't know how long the Chessex Battle Mat has been around, but it's been around a very long time. So a lot of people use it. So I said, you know what? I want to do some research. Maybe I will find that the Chessex Battle Mat is actually something I like better than the Pathfinder Basic Flip Mat. So let me do some actual honest-to-God research. And I bought 2 of them. I bought the normal-sized version and the Megamat. They have a Gigamat too, which is enormous apparently. It's a giant, it's like a ping pong table. I didn't get that one, but I did get the normal one, which is about 2 foot by 2 foot. And the larger one, which is 3 foot by 4 foot. And the larger one I've been using on my gaming table at home. The smaller one I've been taking on my Sunday games. I'm actually going there in a couple hours, or about a little bit more than an hour. And that one I've been carrying around with me. And I've been using them now for 6 months. And I now feel like I've got enough experience with both of these mats to give you an informed opinion and judgment and thoughts about the Chessex Battle Mat versus the Pathfinder Flip Mat. And the winner, the true winner of the Chessex Battle Mat versus the Pathfinder Flip Mat is the 315-9 black medium tip Staedtler wet erase marker. It turns out the one thing I can be absolutely sure of is that I love the 315-9 black medium tip Staedtler wet erase marker. I bought a set of these early on when I got the Chessex mat and realized that not only do I like using them on the Chessex mat, but I also like using them on my regular battle mat as well. And I took one of them and drew a little line around it so that I knew around the barrel of the pen. So I knew that was the same one that I was using. And I am still using it 6 months later, twice a week, and it's still working just fine. It is a really good marker. It's way better than dry erase markers. Dry erase markers die so fast. The wet erase marker has lasted a long, long time. So I really like this marker. It turns out that was the one thing that I got where I'm like, yes, this is absolutely 100% better. So that was one of my main conclusions. Get the 315-9 black medium tip Staedtler wet erase marker. So they can be a little harder to find. Like they're hard to get on Amazon. Amazon has a thing like you can buy 10 and then you try to buy 10 and it turns out they send you one and then you try to return it and they'll take it, but then they send you one again. So that's a real pain. So I ordered them actually from another place online called Nordisco. You can get them for $1.89 a piece at Nordisco. You can buy them in boxes of 10. I bought 10 of them. So whatever that is, 18, about $20 for 10 of these. And that's going to last me a long time. Right? Those are going to last a long time, but they are great. Medium tip. The fine tipped ones are a little too fine for me. Like they're really good for detailed drawings, but the medium tip I really dig. So that turned out to be the big winner. I still argue that the flip mat, the Pathfinder flip mat is still the best deal, one of the best deals in tabletop role-playing games. It is cheap. It is ubiquitous. You can find it in lots of places. You can order it online. You can also buy it at local game shops. Extremely durable. Now, on the odd bit, it might tear, but I've only had one tear, and even with the tear, it was very easy to continue to use. Very durable. Super portable because it folds up to less than the length and width of a sheet of paper, so it's very easy to throw in your DM Go bag. It is very thin. When you fold it up, it is very thin and very easy to carry around, and extremely flexible. You can use it as a whiteboard on your table. It's very easy to worry about. Just it's fantastic, and I mentioned durability, that it's strong, but also you don't have to worry about staining. So you can put dry erase or wet erase marker on there and leave it for a long time. You probably don't want to use permanent marker like a Sharpie, although I've heard people have used a Sharpie and gotten it off, but I wouldn't do that. I'd get a wet erase or dry erase marker, like the 315-9 black medium tip Staedtler wet erase marker, but you can leave a map on there forever and then erase it with a wet cloth like a year later, which is something you can't do with the Chessex mat. So I still argue that the flip mat is the better deal of the two. However, having used the Chessex mat now for 6 months, and now that I own them, I prefer the Chessex mat, and for a couple of reasons, about three main reasons. One, it lays flat. Like once you unroll it, and I've got some little tricks about unrolling it, and this is the key. This is the key about unrolling, right? Or the key about Chessex mat is you begin to join the cult of the Chessex mat, because there's a bunch of rituals that you have to follow, a bunch of like strange arcane things and alchemical sort of things you have to do in order to keep your mat in great working order. But one of them, for example, is when you unroll it, because you have to roll it, you cannot fold it. If you fold it, you're going to ruin it. Hence the durability, one of the durability problems. So you have to roll them up, right? You roll them up to store them. A lot of people just store them in the same plastic thing that they came with, which is fine. You can get a poster tube. I use poster tubes. I actually got a professional black plastic poster tube that I use for the big one, which is a little big and clunky. It's not crazy. That's a drafting tube that I have. It's a little big for that. Again, portability is not as great because you have to keep it rolled up. You cannot fold it like you can a Pathfinder mat. Some people say you can, but I've heard that if you fold it and it creases at all, that crease is going to be there forever. You'll never get the crease out. So you really don't want to fold it. When you unroll it, the trick for unrolling it is you unroll it and then you roll it the other direction, the other way, and then kind of rub your hands all over it and then lay it back over again. And then it lays flat. And it will lay flat, way flatter than a piezo flip mat will lay down. It also feels nice. The texture on it is a nice texture. It just feels nicer than a laminated poster map, right? It just feels nice. And when you're drawing on it with a wet erase marker, it draws much nicer than when you're drawing on direct laminate. That's what I find. I find that the texture of the mat lends itself. It feels like you're drawing something permanent. And it feels good when you're drawing on it, better than on the piezo flip mat. So those three things matter enough that if you already have a Chessex mat, I don't suggest going for something else necessarily. If you have the Chessex mat and you like it, then you don't need to go for anything else. That's one key observation I will give you is whatever you have is probably fine. You probably don't need to get something else. I don't think the advantages of the other are so strong that you need to get the other. However, one thing I'll say is if you're finding that it's kind of a pain in the ass to carry around a Chessex Battle Mat, the piezo flip mat travel is much nicer. It's so much easier to travel with. It's so easy to travel with that even though I have a Chessex mat, I also have a Pathfinder flip mat in there because why not? It's like a sheet of paper. You throw it in and you're done. So if you already have one, you're fine. And if you already have a flip mat, you're also fine. A lot of people are going to say like, oh, what have you tried this other one? There's this other one on Amazon. I haven't. I love it. I'm sure there are other ones. I have not. I'm not going to try 50 other battle mats out. These are, one of them I know is like the most popular one. And the other one I think is very popular. And it's one that I have used a lot. So I know, and that's the Paizo flip mat. So I mentioned, I'm just kind of reiterating some of the points about like the Pathfinder basic flip mat. Super durable, right? Easy. You never have to worry about any of the stuff that you draw on it. You can wipe it off. It's $17 ordered from Paizo. You can get it at a lot of other online retailers as well. You can also pick it up at your local game shops. The local game shops have it. Really great for throwing in your GM kit. Wet or dry erase markers. Super easy to clean. So, really, really nice. The disadvantage of the Paizo flip mat is that it has creases in it. So it doesn't lie perfectly smooth. One trick I had for my home game is I had a great big acrylic sheet that I put on top. Well, I don't use the acrylic sheet anymore now that I have the Chessex mat. The Chessex mat alone feels nicer, in my opinion, than the acrylic sheet. So now that has become my new sort of just lay it on the table and always have it there. So, the acrylic sheet works. And when I use wet erase markers like the 315-9 medium point Staedtler black marker, it doesn't quite draw as nicely on the laminate as it does on a Chessex mat because the texture is a little too smooth. It doesn't, the tip doesn't bite as much into the texture. So I find writing and drawing on the Chessex mat better than writing on the Paizo mat, but it works fine anyway. I've done it both and it works fine. So those are really the only issues with the flip mat, but I think a lot of its advantages outweigh that. It's still, because it's so cheap, because it's so portable, because it's so flexible, I still consider it like the best deal and one of the best deals in tabletop role-playing games. The Chessex Battle Mat has been around forever. And one thing about the Chessex Battle Mat you'll find, if you were like me and you read like every forum posting that went back for 20 years on the Chessex Battle Mat, the people who have them love them. It's really rare. There were some people, but it was really rare for me to find people who have been using Chessex mats and did not like them, right? They really did like them, even with all of the archaic stuff, the cult of the battle mat, which I'm going to talk about. They just like to share how they used it. It does feel really great. It does lay really nice and flat once you unroll it and roll it the other way and then roll it back out again. And of course, the wet erase markers. But it does require this special care. And some of the special care, for example, is if you use the wrong type of marker, you will mark it permanently. If you use a dry erase marker on it, you will mark it permanently. Here's a really funny story that I have. I was playing DCC, Dungeon Crawl Classics, at Gamehole Con. And they had their own little DCC area. And there was a great big Chessex Battle Mat on the table. And this grizzled dude who's the game master, who's clearly been GMing for a long time, sat down. He's ready to run some DCC. And he looks and he's like, oh, God, look, the last people on this, didn't erase they didn't erase the mat. All right. And he takes his little spray bottle, because you have to carry around a spray bottle and a piece of, like a washcloth if you're going to clean him, because cleaning him is messier than cleaning the other stuff. And he sprays it and then he tries to wipe it and he goes, oh my God. And it was because it was permanently on there, because somebody had drawn on it with a dry erase marker and it was permanently on the mat. And he's like, oh. And then he flips the mat over and the other side had the same thing, where somebody had still drawn with permanent marker on the other side of the mat. He's like, oh my God, barbarians. And he sort of like lost it. And then of course there's somebody else who went out and goes, turns out if you draw over it with a wet erase marker, it'll erase. And he takes his wet erase marker and he draws over the dry erase section and then he wipes it and it wipes away. And he goes, see? And he goes, yeah, that was like 1 centimeter off of this giant mat that's going to take like 9 hours to clean. Right? Going that. So then the answer is like, but him like yelling and be like, it was, I remember it fondly, but it showed that like how bad that is, that like, it's so easy to do and people do it all the time and it goes there. And so dry erase markers will absolutely stain it. You can get them off, but it's a pain. And even wet erase markers, if you leave them on a Chessex mat for too long, will permanently stain it. It makes it really hard to clean if you wet erase marker. They will tell you, and even the Chessex side says, do not use red and green markers. They even sell red and green markers, But they're like, really be careful. Look, the picture has red and green in it. Red and green markers, but God help you if you use them. And if you leave them for more than like a few hours, it'll permanently stain them. And then you have to go through special care. And this is where the rituals of the cult of the Chessex Battle Mat come in. I did go to these forums where people talked about it, and everybody had like weird chemical mixtures that they created that were like the way to clean the flip mat if it got stained. Like, oh, here's like this 1 little ounce of this. And we were saying like, don't use turpentine on your map. I'm pretty sure turpentine was one of the things that they were using. And they said like, you have to use this mix of different kinds of cleaner, but God help you if you use too much of the cleaner, you'll actually wipe the grid off the mat. You'll actually erase the grid that's on the mat itself. So you have to be careful to use something that's just enough to get the ink off, but not so abrasive that it'll actually permanently like damage the mat and leave a big white patch where it should have had a grid line and then the regular texture on it. So you can definitely like hose that up. And then I even have a friend, my friend and yours. I'm not going to say who it is, but it's somebody that I know, a good friend of mine, and it's somebody you probably know too, who literally showers with his Chessex Battle Mat. I guess after a con, he goes and he puts it in the shower. And the reason why is the humidity will like really get in there, and it'll really like, you know, totally soak the thing. And then all of the ink you can wipe it off and all of the ink will get off there, but it has to like sit in the hot shower with the steam with you in order to get it, you know, to get it to work off. And that was literally said to me, hey, you can shower with it and it gets the ink off, without irony. Right? There wasn't even, it's like, I was like, do you wear it on your head, like to keep your hair dry afterwards, or, you know, wrap it around your waist? I'd need the big one. I don't think the small one's going to work for me. So, you know, that there's a lot of ritual, right? And you know what there isn't a lot of ritual for? There isn't a lot of ritual for how to get the ink off of your dry erase flip mat, because it is super easy to clean that one. So that, you know, people do it, right? And right now in the chat, I'm seeing people that are saying like, oh, use the soft scrub bathroom cleaner, can get deep red and green stains off of Chessix Battle Mat. That's what ethanol, right? You know, like everyone's got their, like, I tell you, it's like alchemy, right? It's like this whole set of like, oh no, this works really well and it won't damage your mat, and it's all, oh my God. Right. And, you know, so far, I mean, I've only had him 6 months, and I will tell you, there are people who are like, yeah, I have one and I shower with it, or I use turpentine and my special alchemical mixtures to clean it. But I've had it for 20 years. I bought it for $30 and I've had it for 20 years and I still love it. So I will say that people that they don't mind, right? They don't mind the extra work that they have to go through. And they like it. And in some cases, they're like, yeah, mine has stains, and that's okay because it reminds me of all of the times that I've been gaming together. So there's that too. The Chessix mat does cost more. $28 for the 24 by 24, slightly smaller size. It's about 10 inches shorter than a Pathfinder flip mat. $28 for that one. $50 for the 34 by 48 Megamat. I have both of these. And the reality is, now that I have them, I like using them. I'm like those other people. I like using them, right? And if they stain, they stain. It's not a big deal. But I've been using it 6 months, and I do prefer them to the Pathfinder flip mat now because I already own them and I know how to work with them. But if I'm going on the road, if I'm flying on a plane, I'm not bringing a Chessix mat with me, right? When I go to Page, I'll be driving. So in that case, I'll throw one in the car because it's easy to throw it in the car. But for my trip if I'm flying in a plane, I don't want to bump people. I'm not going to walk down the aisle bumping people in the head one right after the other, like the guitar in Airplane where she's going dong, 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 dong. I'm going to be like banging people with my Chessix mat. And I don't want to bang anybody in the head in the plane with my Chessix mat. So I will be bringing my beloved Paizo Pathfinder flip mat. And that is my conclusion to this. They are both great. If you already own one, you're probably fine. I would say only if you find a deficiency with the one you have should you investigate the other. The only case that I can make for somebody buying a Pathfinder flip mat after they already own a Chessix mat is you want something that's more portable. That's really the only issue, is portability. If you already have a Pathfinder flip mat and you are happy with it, you definitely don't need to get a Chessix Battle Mat. They are costly. They do have these other things. You are going to join a cult. You'll have to wear special robes. You're going to have to shower with it and use ethanol or whatever. But it does feel nicer. If you enjoyed this show, the best thing you can do is subscribe to the Sly Flourish newsletter. You will get next week's article. You will get information about all of the other stuff that I do, and you will get a free adventure preview for a free adventure generator. It's actually an entire system. There's an entire game system that you'll get for signing up for the newsletter. Absolutely free. You can also subscribe to Patreon. Patrons get access to things like the Patreon Q&A, whole bunch of different tips, tricks, and tools, access to all kinds of great stuff, whole different podcasts, lots of stuff. And you can pick up any of my books, including City of of Arches, Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, Forge of Foes, Lazy DM's Companion, and more at the Sly Flourish Bookstore. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Get out there and play an RPG.